Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, and before I introduce you my guest, tell me, what were you thinking? Last second of the game, corner kick for Cagliari. Lazio ahead 2-1. Cagliari 2 men down. How many of you thought, okay, they're going to equalize on this chance? I definitely was convinced Cagliari would find the equalizer. So many times this happened in Lazio history that I'm really used to that. So I'm really happy that it didn't happen. And Alasdair, three very important points. Lazio is moving up in the table. Probably not our best performance, though.
No, and you weren't alone in that. I was at the stadium with our friend Karsten last night, and we were both I think we both kind of had our heads in our hands when that corner was awarded at the end. But we made it, and I think it was an ugly game, to be honest, far from the kind of fluid attacking Lazio we've seen so far this season. But it's a very different kind of way of winning a game, and ultimately 3 points, like you said, and this incredible streak goes on because I read this morning Baroni's now got the best start in Lazio history as a coach with 10 wins in 14 games. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. So we can't complain too much, even if there were certainly some concerns in that performance.
No, we have to be honest. I mean, you cannot pretend that Lazio will play 38 games in Serie A and all of them are going to be amazing. The team is going to play fantastic football, etc. Lazio play Sunday, Thursday, Monday, again on Thursday. I mean, the fatigue is catching up. You could see some players not 100% fit. Nuno Tavares was out because of the red card. We had some players like Lazzari coming back after a month of stop. Zaccagni wasn't at the stop. I mean, you cannot pretend that every single game you're going to see an amazing team. So I think the biggest difference between good teams and great teams is that great teams win even this type of games.
Yeah, and it felt, do you not think, just like the kind of game we would have failed to win in previous years? Actually, Karsten was reminding me that the last time we'd been to a game together was when we lost 4-2 to Salernitana. And I can't remember if that was last season or the year before when Candreva scored. And it ended up being, I think, about their only win of the entire season. And that was a good example, really, of the kind of like those moments where Lazio can switch off mentally, where we've had to have these discussions about blackouts and the mentality of the squad and their complacency. And I feel like we've had that discussion 1,000 times really on this podcast in the last few years. And that's what's impressing me here is that Baroni's managed to change that seemingly. And it's not just the way that the team is playing and this new style of football and the way he's rotating the squad and all that. He does seem to have got them focused in a way. The way he's rotating between Europe and Serie A is really impressive. But these ugly, awkward Monday night, it had all the ingredients to be one of those matches that you regret later on in the season. And so you'll take any win from it, really. And 2-1 with a penalty. I said after the game, I felt like the penalty was the only way we were going to win that game. We needed a penalty, really, because I don't know, there was something about that. Lazio had by far the better of the game in terms of chances created, but just it never felt that close, you know? So.
Yeah, let's be honest. Scuffet didn't make a save in all of the game. It's true that the Cagliari defender made an unbelievable save on the line twice in the same opportunity. But
Scuffet made a great save on that Pellegrini free kick, though. You're forgetting.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I don't know if you came in the stadium early enough, but Pellegrini finished the warm-up trying this type of solution 3-4 times before going in the locker room. So I wasn't surprised to see him kicking that way. He tried to make the ball bounce 1.5 meters in front of the goalkeeper, and that's difficult for the goalie because it's a difficult bounce. We said that Stadio Olimpico pitch is terrible. So, it's not easy for the goalkeeper to block that type of shot. And that's what Pellegrini tried, and it worked out.
Yeah, it did look very intentional, didn't it? Because Dia was right there immediately, which is what you want, following in on anticipating the error and so on. It was still a mistake, but I think it was quite cleverly executed by Pellegrini, and in a way that's another reason for encouragement. That I think everyone in the stadium at that point thought, 2 minutes in, 1-0 up against Cagliari, a game that we were all feeling pretty confident about, really, considering the recent form. And it just wasn't, and it wasn't comfortable. No. Cagliari, but they found a way. I mean, Cagliari, it was this weird thing where they had quite a lot of the ball and they were spending a decent amount of time kind of in Lazio's half, but without really doing an awful lot with it. But I was just saying, it feels like at some point, if we're not careful, one of these crosses is going to work or the ball's going to break or something. And I was just saying that, and they took that shot, and it takes a huge deflection. I hadn't thought about that route to goal, but it's another way of doing it. And the response they had to that, I think, was good, because they started so well that maybe they relaxed a little bit, but they managed to fight back. And that is something we've seen so little of in recent years, is the ability to kind of, mentally stay in a game and react to things as they're happening.
So you're pretty much saying that the goal we consider is all your fault.
Again, Vittorio.
Again. And I didn't say nothing about it. And you made it all on your own.
But also, do you not think, can I just ask you a question quickly? Do you not think that it's taken so much pressure off this team that we can almost every game we go into, we can just say we are going to concede a goal at some point. And it just means when something like that happens, it's not as big a deal, because I think previously in the Sarri era, for example, if we conceded a goal, we were basically screwed because we relied on clean sheets to get results. Whereas now it's like the goal goes in, and it would be infuriating in previous years, the deflection, and it would get in everyone's heads and they would lose their minds. But the fact that now we basically can accept we never keep clean sheets means that when these things happen, the team can probably stay calmer. I mean, that's my feeling anyway. What do you think about that?
Well, you can see the other way around, right? I was thinking we need to score 2 goals to win the game. We know it before the kickoff because we're going to concede one, right? The other thing, Alasdair, is what's going on? I mean, this season, they score 2 backheel. They score, I don't know how many goals on deflection. I mean, they're only crazy goals against Lazio this season. It's incredible. I mean, the Como player who scored last time, what was it, Thursday, couldn't still believe it days afterwards of what he did. It's simply incredible. We conceded incredible, amazing goals.
Yeah, actually, Carsten was saying exactly the same thing to me during the game. But yeah, I think that, again, that would have really got in the mind of the players a lot more previously. And they trust themselves that they'll get another one. And I think the fans trust this team as well, that they'll find a way. It's not as reliant, again, going back to the Maurizio Sarri team, the year we finished second, we overperformed the XG so much, because we were basically incredibly clinical in front of goal, but weren't actually creating that many chances. So it didn't feel totally sustainable. Whereas now it does feel more sustainable in an attacking sense, because they're continuing to create. And sometimes, you have to be patient. You have to wait for that to convert, And by the way, great penalty from Zaccagni as well, because there was so much pressure on that penalty, really. Because like I say, I felt like it was going to be the only way through, and he's just come back from injury, and, it was basically unstoppable. So...
Alasdair, you mentioned the penalty. Now, there's been a big discussion on it. So I want your take and the take of our listeners. So write it in the comments below. What do you think about the penalty? Were you convinced it was a penalty, or do you think it was soft?
I'll admit I was I was up on my feet claiming it at the time. But as soon as I saw the replay, I thought, I don't know. Because it looked from the kind of reverse angle, it looked like a classic penalty where Pellegrini's he's come from the defender's blind side, and he's surprised him and got there first and won the contact. But then I looked at it again, I was like, the defender does seem to get a proper foot on the ball and clear it. So I would be annoyed with that if it was the other way around, put it that way. I think it is quite soft.
You know what? This happened a lot of times against Lazio, and I don't like the rule because the defender is trying to kick the ball, and Pellegrini in that chance, but in other occasion we saw other players. They just put the leg there, not to catch the ball, but to basically catch the kick of the defender, knowing that if he catch me, it's penalty. So I thought the rule has to change, but if you follow the rule, that's a penalty. I don't like this type of rule, but
it's getting harder and harder to defend in the box because
absolutely.
basically, not only are defenders having to run around with their arms
Yeah.
behind their backs like some sort of weird mannequin, they're having to any ball that's bouncing is so dangerous to defend now. Anything that's kind of that hip height or higher, you basically have to leave it or be completely sure of what's 360
Yeah.
degrees all around you, because as soon as you lift your leg up to clear the ball, any contact with anyone around you can be a penalty. So yeah, I mean, and there have been a lot, haven't there, this season? It's been a bit of a talking point again that Serie A, like back when VAR was first introduced, Serie A has suddenly become the penalty league again, where they're way ahead of all the other top divisions in terms of penalties being given. And I don't know why that is so much this year, because there's not been any big rule changes and VAR is very established by now. But it does seem like it's a bit of a bizarre year in terms of decision making and also the use of VAR and all these things. So I can kind of understand, but why Cagliari were enraged about that, but they completely lost their heads as well. The fact that they then got two players sent off within a minute of the penalty going in, and the game completely changes there. So you can have some sympathy with them around the penalty award, but their reaction to it is kind of,
Can I say something? Mina was sent off 30 minutes later than he should. I thought that the Cagliari defender was deserving a red card probably already in the first half. He wasted so much time, fouled so many times Tati Castellanos, lie dead on the pitch like 15 times all in the first 45 minutes. I think VAR should do more about that, because Cagliari in the first half wasted so much time, and they were even losing. They were happy to lose just 1-0, which I mean, it's not acceptable.
Yeah, and it did kind of work though, in a way. I mean, obviously they weren't creating much, but I do hope that they've not set a blueprint for smaller teams, because they were so physical. There's 5 or 6 yellow cards within the first hour or so. They were just kind of making it a really ugly game. Big tackles, free kicks all the time. It was really broken up. There was no real rhythm, but it was effective because it stopped Lazio being able to create that kind of attacking fluency. And obviously Baroni's response to this was to take off Noslin at half time and to try and bring on another midfielder and basically get the team to keep the ball better and manage the game better, and instead of being so vertical, so direct. And I don't know, that didn't really seem to work either, to be honest.
So I agree in changing. I mean, we switched from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3, but I don't think Vecino had the same impact he had in the other matches. That's the problem. I thought Noslin in the first 45 minutes was pretty much invisible. And I have to say, Alasdair, that in the last couple of games, with Dia playing in that position, we are nearly playing 10 men, because it's very difficult to pass him the ball. and it's very difficult to him for Dia to create chances from there. So I think Baroni understood that with a team that it's getting tired, probably playing 4-2-3-1 is too much. We should be switching to a 4-3-3. But obviously, Vecino came in and didn't have the impact we were expecting. But I like the idea Baroni had.
Do you think as time is going on, Baroni is reining it in a bit? Because he started off being, 4-2-4, all the attackers, let's go all the time. And slowly but surely, as time's gone on, he's either, he's changed to a 4-2-3-1, obviously, which is a bit more of an orthodox formation, even if we're still using two strikers. He is changing to more of a 4-3-3 during games more often. And now he is talking about how the team needs to manage possession better, slow things down a bit more as well. So I do wonder if that's just like what he thinks is a way of getting this team to mature a bit, or if he's deciding actually we need to take the foot off the accelerator a little bit because we won't be able to sustain this level of intensity. I'm not sure.
I think you're right, but the other thing is, last season, this team was really struggling to score. We really struggled. I mean, we were winning. We were hardly making chances. So I thought at the beginning, Baroni had to give a little push. He said, we are struggling to score. Let's play very offensive mind football. So now we're starting scoring and we boost the confidence. I mean, Castellano is already scored more than last season. Dia scoring, Zaccagni, Isaacson, etc. So now we have that confidence that we're going to find a way to score. We're going to create chances. So now Baroni is a little bit scaling back, trying to find a scheme that works even for our defense. He's convinced that we're going to create chances. We're going to score, even if we don't play anymore with a 4-2-4, because the mentality of the player has changed. They are convinced they're going to score anyway. So I think now he's scaling a little bit back, which makes sense. And obviously, 4-2-4 or 4-2-3-1, you have to run too much to keep it up every 3 days. Guendouzi, we have to talk about Guendouzi. He played as usual, but he made a lot of mistakes, I thought. And we are getting tired, so we need to find a different solution.
Yeah, and that always was the concern, I think, when we've discussed this before. The style is how sustainable it's going to be throughout a season where we're hoping to go through in Europe and have a good run in the Coppa Italia. And it's quite intense, and particularly in that midfield. And look, just as well, the midfielders we've got, because there's hardly any of them, but they're all playing really well. And that is, a finger's gone up. What is it?
Castrovilli, he's not playing.
Okay, yeah. He's not playing at all, let alone well. But I mean, yesterday, I think Dia was given the man of the match award, but for me, it was Rovella. I think he was so key to that game yesterday. Just the work he does defensively, the amount of interceptions he made, and sprinting all the way back to help the defense, and moving the ball. He's such an important player, and we were discussing this last night before the game a little bit, but quite quietly doing really well, which is probably a good thing, because he's kind of quietly being one of the best midfielders in Serie A this season, I would say.
By far.
But nobody's really talking about him, which for Lazio is probably a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, by far, one of the best Italian midfielder. I mean, yesterday it looks like we had two Rovella on the pitch. But I know you have to dash, Alasdair. I want to finish with the Guendouzi thing, because if people didn't know this, Guendouzi was subbed, and that substitution changed the game, because Zaccagni came in and we scored. Guendouzi wasn't happy at all. He kicked the ball in the Tribuna Montemario, and quite high, by the way. I thought he would send it out of the stadium. Now, it was important and funny at the same time, the answer of Baroni, because a lot of managers would say, I'm going to talk with the player, I don't like this behavior. Instead, Baroni said, that's what I like. Someone who is not happy about being subs. It's the positivity mentality that's completely different. I mean, Sarri would never have said the same thing, right?
Yeah, and it's a funny one as well that he's so upset about coming off when supposedly he's not even 100% fit. He's
No.
already played, 70 minutes or something before Zaccagni came on? I can't remember exactly when it was. But I don't know why it's something to be so upset about anyway. But yeah, everyone's bought into it, and it's the way that everyone kind of knows they're going to get the chances as well, I think is really important. It's not as big a deal. I mean, obviously, in this occasion, Guendouzi's not happy about having been taken off, but generally, players seem to be pretty willing to come on and off, to be dropped one week and start the next game and all that. And he's managing this squad really well. There are obviously some players in there we want to see more of. You mentioned Castrovilli. I would say Pellegrini last night, for me, was a big chance for him. He's not going to get many chances because Tavares has been basically Cafu reborn this season, but
I thought he played well yesterday.
He's just, I don't know. I feel like there's always more there, there's always more to come from him. And I think recently he's shown flashes in that 20 game, I think, was in many ways one of the best games he's had for Lazio, but he's just not quite the final contribution, the final ball or cross or whatever it is. And yeah, I think he's close to being the player we want him to be, but he's not quite there, is my feeling.
I give him the player of the game award yesterday. I mean, 2 goals scored.
For convincing the referee it was a penalty.
Well, penalty on Pellegrini, and the first one is pretty much an assist of Pellegrini. So I thought he played a good game, but we can always expect more from our Lazio player. But overall, nice performance. Well, not nice performance, nice result. It's not easy to see Lazio not performing well and winning. On only 2 days, we are playing Porto. That's tough game. I expect a lot of rotation. Lazio need to win, because if we win, we are pretty much passing the group stage. So we're going to be back on Friday morning, probably. I know, Alasdair, you have to dash. Thanks for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, and rate and review our podcast, please. Take care, boys.
Cheers.